The gallery opening was supposed to be boring. I stood in front of a 12-foot canvas of distorted human faces, champagne flute sweating in my palm, wondering how much longer I had to stay before I could slip out the back and catch the last train home. My boss had insisted I attend networking opportunity, she'd said, but Vivian Chen didn't pay me enough to pretend I understood abstract expressionism, or to smile at men in tailored suits who looked at my body before my business card. The dress had been a mistake. Black silk, backless, elegant in the mirror of my tiny apartment. Now, under the gallery's harsh white lights and wandering eyes, it felt like a declaration I hadn't meant to make. I turned toward the exit, ready to abandon the pretense entirely, when the lights went out. Not flickering, not dimming, complete darkness, like someone had severed the building's connection to the grid. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My champagne flute hit the floor. I heard it shatter but felt nothing. Someone bumped into me, muttered an apology. Then came the sound that made my blood stop. Gunshots. 2. Precise, professional. Screaming erupted. Bodies crashed against bodies. I pressed myself against the wall, silk dress suddenly ice cold against my spine, trying to make sense of the chaos. My phone was in my clutch. Somewhere I'd set it down, hadn't I? Near the sculpture of twisted metal. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in sickly red. That's when I saw him. He stood in the center of the gallery like the eye of a hurricane. Tall, dark suit, perfectly intact despite the pandemonium, one hand hanging loose at his side, the other held a gun, not pointing it, just holding it, like it was part of him. People fled past him. He didn't move. His eyes, even from across the room, even in that crimson half-light, locked onto something near the sculpture exhibit. Someone, a man in a gray suit, frozen against the far wall. I should have run. Every survival instinct I possessed screamed at me to move, to join the stampede, pushing toward the exits. But I couldn't look away. The man with the gun walked forward, not rushed, not hesitant. Each step measured, inevitable. "You know why I'm here," he said. His voice cut through the screaming, low, controlled, absolutely certain. The man in gray raised his hands. "Lorenzo, please, you had a choice. Closer now, 3 feet between them. You made it badly." I watched the gray-suited man crumble. Not physically, not yet, but something in him collapsed. His hands shook. "My family. Should have thought of them before you talked to the FBI." The words landed like stones in still water. FBI. This wasn't a robbery. This was an execution. I must have made a sound, a gasp, a whimper, something, because the man with the gun turned and looked directly at me. Time crystallized. His face was all sharp edges and shadows, strong jaw, dark eyes that seemed to absorb the emergency lights rather than reflect them. A small scar cut through his left eyebrow. He couldn't have been older than 35, but he carried the weight of someone who'd lived 100 lifetimes, all of them violent. We stared at each other across the emptying gallery. I pressed harder against the wall, feeling the rough texture bite into my bare back. My heart hammered so loud I was certain he could hear it. The red light painted him in blood. He tilted his head slightly, studying me. The man in gray took advantage of the distraction, lunged for a side door. The gun came up without the man even looking. One shot. The gray suit crumpled. I flinched, bile rising in my throat, but the man's eyes never left mine. "You should go," he said. Not a suggestion, an order, quiet and absolute. My legs finally remembered how to move. I stumbled sideways, grabbed my clutch from where it had fallen near the sculpture, and ran. I made it home somehow. The details blurred: subway platform, stairs, my apartment door that stuck unless you lifted while turning the key. I stood in my bathroom, still wearing the black dress, staring at my reflection. Mascara smudged, lipstick gone. But my eyes were what I couldn't stop looking at. Wide, haunted, alive. I'd watched a man die tonight. Watched another man kill him without hesitation, without remorse. I should call the police. Should report what I'd seen, but something stopped me. The way he'd looked at me. Not threatening, not warning. "You should go." Like he'd been protecting me. I peeled off the dress, let it pool on the bathroom floor like a dark mirror, and stepped into the shower. Hot water beat against my skin until it turned pink. But I couldn't wash away the memory of those eyes. Dark, certain, dangerous. Who was Lorenzo? I didn't sleep. Morning came gray and exhausted through my bedroom window. My phone buzzed Vivian, asking if I'd made any good connections at the gallery. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. The news had nothing. No reports of a shooting, no gallery incident, like it hadn't happened at all, but the dress on my bathroom floor proved otherwise. I called in sick to work, something I never did, and spent the day researching. Lorenzo shooting gallery. Nothing. Lorenzo Mafia. 1,000 useless results. Lorenzo gray suit FBI. Still nothing. Whoever he was protected. Or feared. Or both. By evening, I'd convinced myself it was over. A nightmare I'd walked through and survived. I'd forget the sharp lines of his face, the absolute control in his voice, the way my body had frozen and burned simultaneously under his gaze. I was making tea when my apartment buzzer rang. I froze, kettle steaming in my hand. It rang again, persistent. I crossed to the intercom. Yes? Static. Then, Miss Harper. I need to speak with you. The voice sent electricity down my spine. Him. How did you— I couldn't finish the sentence. Open the door. Not a request. Every rational part of my brain screamed to refuse, to call the police, to run. But my hand was already moving toward the button. Why? I managed. Silence stretched. Then, quieter. Because you're in danger. And I'm the only reason you're still alive. I pressed the button, let him in. And as I heard his footsteps climbing the stairs to my third-floor walk-up, I realized the shatter point hadn't been last night at the gallery. It was now. Standing in my tiny apartment in sweatpants and a tank top, waiting for a killer to knock on my door and tell me why my life would never be the same. The knock came. 3 times. Measured. Inevitable. I opened it. Lorenzo stood in my hallway, still in the dark suit, looking impossibly large in the cramped space. His eyes found mine immediately, and something passed between us. Recognition, fear, something electric I didn't have a name for. You saw me last night, he said. Yes. That makes you a witness. My throat tightened. Are you here to kill me? His jaw tensed. No, Miss Harper. I'm here to keep you alive. He stepped inside before I could process his words, closing the door behind him with controlled precision. My apartment, already small, shrank to the size of a shoebox with him in it. You can't just— I started. Lock it. I stared at him. The deadbolt, Miss Harper. Lock it. My hand moved automatically, sliding the bolt home. The click sounded too final. Lorenzo moved through my space like he was cataloging threats. He checked the window, fire escape visible outside, frowned, then turned back to me. In the lamplight, I could see him more clearly than I had in the gallery's chaos. Dark hair cut short, olive skin, and those eyes that seemed to calculate everything they landed on, including me. Sit down, he said. This is my apartment. I'm aware. You can't just order me around. Someone followed you home last night. His voice cut through my protest like a blade through silk. They're watching this building. They know you were at the gallery. They know you saw what happened. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. What? Sit. Down. This time I obeyed, sinking onto my second-hand couch. Lorenzo remained standing, a wall of controlled danger between me and the door. Who are you? I whispered. Someone who keeps certain people in line when they forget their place. You killed that man. Yes. No hesitation. No justification. Just fact. I pulled my knees to my chest, suddenly aware of how little my tank top covered. Why are you here? Because Marcus Valenti's people think you're important. I don't even know who that is. The man I killed was Marcus's accountant. He'd been feeding information to federal prosecutors for 6 months. Lorenzo moved to the window, peered through the blinds without touching them. You being there, seeing it happen, they think you're connected. Connected to what? Me. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implications I didn't want to examine. But I'm not, I said. I don't know you. I work in marketing. I sell boutique skincare products. I'm nobody. You were wearing a dress that cost 3 months of your salary. Heat flooded my cheeks. I saved for it. You were at an invitation-only gallery opening in a neighborhood where you don't live, don't work, and can't afford. He turned from the window, eyes finding mine. To Marcus's people, that looks like someone being shown off, introduced. That's insane. That's survival in my world. They make assumptions, eliminate threats. My breath caught. Am I a threat? Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. Not to me. Then why? Because I don't let innocent people die for witnessing my work. He said it like a business principle, clinical and cold. But underneath, I heard something else. Something almost like honor? I stood, needing to move, to think. So what happens now? You what? Protect me. For how long? Until I convince Marcus you're irrelevant. And how do you do that? I haven't decided yet. The honesty startled me. I'd expected lies, reassurances, something. Not this blunt calculation. I could go to the police, I said, knowing even as I spoke how hollow it sounded. Lorenzo's expression didn't change. You could. They'd take your statement, open an investigation, and you'd be dead within 48 hours. Marcus has 3 cops on his payroll, 2 judges, and a district attorney who owes him enough favors to fill a ledger. That's not possible. Emma. My name in his mouth stopped me cold. Low, certain, intimate. This isn't a world you understand, he continued. The rules you think exist, the protections you assume work, they don't apply here. The only thing keeping you alive right now is that I'm telling certain people you're under my protection until we sort this out. Why would you do that? The question came out smaller than I intended. He was quiet for a long moment, studying me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. I don't know, he finally said. The admission felt like being let in on a secret. He stayed for 2 hours. Not talking much, just present. He made calls short, clipped conversations in Italian that I couldn't follow, checked the window every 15 minutes, accepted the tea I nervously made him. Though I noticed he never drank it. Testing it, I realized. Making sure I hadn't poisoned it. The absurdity almost made me laugh. You should pack a bag, he said around 11. What? Enough for a few days. You can't stay here. Panic spiked. I have work tomorrow. My job. Call in sick again. I can't just disappear. You can. You will. He stood, towering in my small living room. This building isn't secure. Your locks are garbage. The fire escape is an open invitation, and you're on a floor low enough that anyone with decent aim could... He stopped himself. Pack. Now. I wanted to argue. Wanted to insist this was crazy. That I had a life. Responsibilities. A reality that didn't include mafia threats and protective killers in expensive suits. But the certainty in his voice convinced me more than any explanation could. I packed. His car was parked 2 blocks away, sleek, black, foreign. The kind of vehicle I'd only seen in magazines. Lorenzo opened the passenger door, waited until I was inside, then scanned the street before getting behind the wheel. Where are we going? I asked as he pulled into traffic. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. I sank into the leather seat, watching Boston's lights blur past. Everything felt surreal. The weight of my overnight bag on my lap, the faint scent of expensive cologne, the absolute silence from the man beside me. Can I ask you something? I said quietly. You can ask. Last night. In the gallery. Why did you tell me to go instead of... I couldn't finish. Instead of killing you? Yes. He was quiet for several blocks. Then, you looked terrified. I was terrified. But you didn't run. Not immediately. You stayed frozen, watching. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Most people run. Or they faint. Or they pull out their phones. He glanced at me briefly. You just stood there, taking it in. I don't understand. Neither do I. We drove through the city in silence after that, and I found myself studying his profile in the passing streetlights. The sharp line of his jaw. The way he held tension in his shoulders despite appearing relaxed. He'd killed a man without hesitation. He'd come to my apartment to protect me. He didn't know why. And God help me. I was sitting in his car, letting him take me somewhere unknown, because some irrational part of me believed him, believed he'd keep me alive, believed that despite everything, I was safer with a killer than without him. The realization should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like falling. The safe house was a penthouse in the financial district. I'd expected something hidden. Industrial, not floor-to-ceiling, windows overlooking the harbor and furniture that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Lorenzo keyed in a code at the private elevator, and we rose in silence to the top floor. This is yours? I asked as the doors opened directly into the living space. One of several properties. He set my bag down near the entrance. You'll stay in the guest room, second door on the left, bathrooms attached. I stood in the foyer, overwhelmed by marble and modern art, and the sheer impossible expense of it all. How long? As long as it takes. That's not... Emma. He turned to face me fully, and I saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes. I don't have answers yet. I'm working on it. But tonight, you're safe here. That's all I can promise. The vulnerability in his voice caught me off guard. This man who'd seemed carved from stone was admitting limitation, Okay, I whispered. Something passed between us again, that electric recognition from my apartment doorway. He looked at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve, and maybe didn't want to. There's food in the kitchen, he said, breaking eye contact. Help yourself to anything. I need to make some calls. He disappeared into what I assumed was his office, leaving me alone in the massive space. I didn't sleep. The guest room was beautiful, soft gray walls, a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud, blackout curtains that blocked the city lights completely. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the man in the gray suit falling, heard the gunshot, felt Lorenzo's dark eyes on mine. Around 3 a.m, I gave up and padded into the kitchen for water. Lorenzo stood at the windows, backlit by the city's glow. He'd removed his jacket and tie, sleeves rolled to his elbows. A glass of something amber sat on the windowsill beside him, untouched. "Can't sleep?" he asked without turning. "How did you know I was here?" "I hear everything in this apartment." Of course he did. I poured water from the filter, hands shaking slightly. The silence stretched. Not quite comfortable, but not hostile either. "My father owned a restaurant," Lorenzo said suddenly. I froze, glass halfway to my lips. North End. Small place. Real Italian food. None of the tourist garbage. His voice was different, softer, rougher around the edges. I grew up peeling garlic in the kitchen, learning to make proper carbonara. He wanted me to take it over someday. What happened? The Valentis wanted protection money. My father refused. He finally turned to look at me, face half in shadow. They burned it down with him inside. Oh God. I was 17, he continued. Had 2 choices: let it destroy me, or learn to destroy them first. So you chose violence. I chose survival. The violence came later. He picked up the glass, swirled the liquid, but didn't drink. By the time I was 25, I'd built something they couldn't ignore. By 30, I controlled more territory than the Valentis ever had. And Marcus? Marcus is old guard, sloppy, emotional, relies on fear instead of strategy. His jaw tightened. When his accountant started talking, it wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about showing what happens when you betray the structure we've all agreed to maintain. I set down my water glass carefully. You're trying to justify it. No. I'm explaining it. He moved closer, just 3 feet between us now. There's no justification for what I do, Emma. I know exactly what I am. And what's that? Someone who makes terrible choices, so people like you don't have to. The words landed like a confession and an accusation simultaneously. I didn't ask for that, I whispered. No one ever does. We stood in the kitchen's ambient lighting, 2 people from impossible different worlds, connected by chance and violence and something neither of us could name. Why did you really tell me to go? I asked. At the gallery. The truth this time. Lorenzo was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, you were wearing a backless dress. The non sequitur confused me. What? Black silk. Elegant. You kept touching the pearls at your throat like they were a lifeline. His eyes met mine, and I saw something raw there. And when everyone else ran, you stood there like you were trying to understand. Not judge, not panic. Understand. My breath caught. I've seen a lot of death, Emma. Caused most of it. But I'd never seen someone look at me like that, like I was a person making a choice, instead of a monster performing nature. He stepped closer. It made me curious. Curious. About who wears a dress like that to a boring gallery opening. Who freezes instead of fleeing. Who has the eyes of someone who's been overlooked their whole life but refuses to disappear. Heat flooded through me, part fear, part something far more dangerous. You don't know anything about me, I said, but my voice shook. I know you saved for 3 months to buy that dress. I know you work a job that doesn't appreciate you. I know you live alone in an apartment with a stuck door and drink tea at midnight when you can't sleep. His voice dropped lower. I know you're terrified right now, but you haven't asked me to take you back, haven't demanded I let you go, because you won't, because you don't want me to. The accusation hung between us, impossible to deny. I should have been outraged, should have slapped him, demanded he prove me wrong. But standing in his kitchen at 3 a.m, seeing the exhaustion and honesty in his face, I couldn't lie. This is insane, I whispered. Yes, you killed someone. Yes, I should hate you. You should. He reached out slowly, giving me time to move away. When I didn't, his fingers brushed my jaw gentle, testing. But you're still here. His touch burned. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of his hand against my skin, the calluses on his palm that spoke of violence and control and terrible choices. I don't understand this, I breathed. Neither do I. When I opened my eyes, he was closer. Close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his dark irises, the faint stubble along his jaw, the way his chest rose and fell with controlled breathing. Emma, my name again. Low, rough, careful. You should go back to bed, he said, but his hand didn't move from my face. You should let me go. I will, when you're safe. What if I'm not safe with you? His thumb traced my cheekbone, feather light. Then you're smarter than I thought. We stood like that, frozen in possibility, until I finally stepped back. His hand fell away slowly, reluctantly. Good night, Lorenzo. Emma. I turned at the doorway. The dress, he said quietly. Who was it for? The question from the title. The one I hadn't known I was waiting for. I met his eyes across the kitchen. I don't know. Maybe no one. Or maybe someone you hadn't met yet. The implication stole my breath. I fled to the guest room before I could respond, heart hammering, skin still burning where he'd touched me. And I knew, absolutely knew, that everything had just changed. Morning brought coffee and complications. I woke to the smell of espresso and found Lorenzo in the kitchen. Phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He wore different clothes, charcoal slacks, white shirt with the sleeves already rolled up. He looked like he'd been awake for hours. He gestured to a cup waiting on the counter. Cream, no sugar, he said, covering the phone. Your third cabinet had them both, so I made an assumption. He'd been in my apartment long enough to notice my coffee habits. The realization made something warm unfurl in my chest, quickly followed by unease. Non mi interessa cosa pensa Marcus, Lorenzo said into the phone, voice sharp. Si, 2 giorni, ciao. He ended the call, tossed the phone on the counter. Problem? I asked, wrapping my hands around the warm cup. Marcus knows you're with me. My stomach dropped. How? Because I made sure he knows. Lorenzo moved to the windows, tension visible in his shoulders. It's the only way to keep you alive, make it clear you're under my protection. That touching you means war. And that works? Usually. He turned back to me. But Marcus is desperate. His operation's bleeding money. His people are jumpy. And now his accountant's dead. Desperate men make bad decisions. So I'm bait. You're protected. His eyes hardened. There's a difference. I sipped the coffee perfect, exactly how I liked it, and tried to process this new reality. What happens now? Now I prove you're nobody. Just wrong place, wrong time. He pulled out his phone again. Scrolled through something. I need you to tell me exactly who invited you to that gallery opening. My boss, Vivian. She had extra tickets from a client. Client's name? I don't know. She didn't say. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Call her. Find out. It's 7 a.m. She's awake. I can see her office lights from here. I stared at him. You've been watching my boss? I've been watching everyone connected to you for the past 12 hours. He said it like it was obvious. Make the call, Emma. My hands shook as I dialed Vivian's number. She answered on the second ring, voice bright and caffeinated. Emma, feeling better? You sounded awful yesterday. Vivienne, the gallery opening. Who gave you those tickets? Silence. Then, why? Please, it's important. A client, Russo Imports. They wanted exposure at the event. Thought it'd be good for us to network, Emma. What's going on? Russo. I watched Lorenzo's expression darken. Nothing, I lied. Just trying to send a thank you note. Talk later. I ended the call before she could press further. Russo Imports, I said. Fuck. Lorenzo turned away, hand dragging through his hair. Fuck. What? What does that mean? It means this wasn't random. He spun back to face me. Russo Imports is a front. They launder money for the Costello family, old rivals, trying to move into territory I control. If they gave your boss those tickets, they wanted someone at that gallery. The floor tilted. Me? Maybe. Or they wanted anyone from your firm there. Didn't care who. His eyes were calculating now. Dangerous. Either way, you being there when I eliminated Marcus's accountant wasn't coincidence. Someone's playing a bigger game. Fear crystallized into something sharp in my chest. You think they set this up? Wanted me to witness. I think someone's trying to start a war using you as the match. The words hung heavy between us. Lorenzo pulled out his phone, fired off several texts in quick succession. I'm calling in people I trust. We're moving you to a different location tonight. How many locations do you have? Enough. He looked at me, something almost apologetic in his eyes. I'm sorry, Emma. This is bigger than I thought. You keep saying my name like that. He paused. Like what? Like it matters. The admission came out raw, honest. Like I'm not just a problem you're solving. Lorenzo crossed to me slowly, deliberately, stopped close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. You stopped being just a problem the moment you didn't run, he said quietly. When you stood in that gallery, watching me, and I saw something in your eyes I haven't seen in years. What? Recognition without judgment, fear without hatred. His hand came up, thumb brushing my lower lip. You saw what I did and you were terrified. But you weren't disgusted. I should be. Yes, you should be. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. But you're not. And that makes you either the bravest or most foolish woman I've ever met. My breath caught. His thumb was still on my lip, gentle pressure that made my whole body aware of his proximity. Lorenzo. The apartment door burst open. We sprang apart. Lorenzo's gun was in his hand before I could blink, aimed at the intruder. A woman stood in the doorway, tall, dark hair, expensive suit, and absolutely no fear of the weapon pointed at her chest. Really, Lorenzo? She said in accented English. You're going to shoot your sister? He lowered the gun. Christina, I told you to wait. You told me many things. I ignored them all, as usual. Her sharp eyes landed on me, assessing. So this is the girl causing all the trouble. This is Emma Harper, Lorenzo said tightly. Emma, my sister Christina. She runs our financial operations, and apparently plays babysitter when my brother decides to protect random witnesses. Christina smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We need to talk, alone. Anything you need to say is family business. Christina's voice turned steel. The girl can wait in the bedroom. I bristled at being called the girl, but Lorenzo's hand on my arm stopped my protest. Give us 10 minutes, he said quietly. I wanted to argue, wanted to demand answers, to refuse being dismissed like a child. But the tension in the room was palpable, dangerous. I retreated to the guest room, leaving the door cracked just enough to hear their voices rise and fall in Italian. Christina's tone was sharp, accusatory. Lorenzo's responses were measured but firm. Then I heard my name, and another word I recognized. Innamorato. In love. My heart stopped. Christina said it again, louder, and Lorenzo's response was a sharp denial. But something in his voice wavered. The argument escalated. Then silence, followed by the sound of the front door closing. I waited, pulse racing. Lorenzo appeared in the doorway. We need to go. Now. What did she say? That I'm compromised. That keeping you here puts the entire family at risk. His eyes met mine, dark and conflicted. That if I don't eliminate the threat soon, she will. The world narrowed to his words. She means me, I whispered. The threat is me. Yes. And you're still packing your bag, he interrupted. We leave in 5 minutes. There's somewhere safer, somewhere even Christina doesn't know about. Lorenzo, you can't keep running. Watch me. He crossed to me, cupped my face in both hands, with a gentleness that contradicted everything about this moment. I told you I don't let innocent people die for my work, he said. I meant it. Even if it costs you your family? His thumb stroked my cheek. You're not dying, Emma. Not while I'm breathing. And God help me. I believed him. The safe house was a cabin, not rustic. Lorenzo didn't do rustic but isolated. 2 hours north of Boston, surrounded by forest. Accessible only by a private road that required 3 security gates to traverse. No one knows about this place except me, Lorenzo said as he killed the engine. Not Christina, not my people, not anyone in the family. Then what is it? Somewhere I go when I need to disappear. The admission felt significant. He was sharing something private, something that existed outside his Mafia world. Inside, the cabin was all clean lines and minimal furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a lake that mirrored the overcast sky. A stone fireplace dominated one wall. Everything felt designed for solitude. There's one bedroom, Lorenzo said, setting our bags down. I'll take the couch. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He moved to check the windows, the door locks, the security panel hidden behind a painting. The perimeter alarm will alert us if anyone comes within a quarter mile. We're safe here. For how long? Until I figure out who's orchestrating this. He pulled out his phone, frowned at the screen. Limited service out here, which is both blessing and curse. I sank onto the leather couch, exhaustion finally catching up with me. 2 days ago, I'd been worried about networking at a gallery opening. Now I was hiding in a secret cabin with a Mafia enforcer, who looked at me like I was both a problem and a revelation. "You should eat something," Lorenzo said. "I'm not hungry, Emma." I looked up at the weight in his voice. "You haven't eaten since yesterday afternoon. I can hear your stomach from here." He moved toward the kitchen. "I'm making food. You're eating it." Despite everything, I almost smiled. Is that an order? Would it matter if it was? Probably not. Something like amusement flickered across his face. "At least you're honest." I watched him move through the kitchen with easy confidence, pulling ingredients from a refrigerator I hadn't noticed being stocked, finding pans and cabinets like he knew exactly where everything lived. "You come here often?" I asked. "When I need to think without interruption." "What do you think about?" His hands paused on a cutting board. "Whether the choices I've made are ones I can live with." The vulnerability in the statement stole my breath. "And?" I pressed gently, still deciding. He resumed chopping garlic. I realized, the smell sharp and familiar. My father used to say cooking is meditation. You can't rush it, can't force it. You work with what you have and make something worth consuming. Is that what you're doing now? Making something worth consuming out of this situation? I'm trying to keep you alive. Everything else is secondary. But the way he said it made me think he was lying. He made carbonara. Real carbonara, eggs and cheese and pepper and the garlic he'd been chopping. Tossed with pasta until it became something golden and perfect. We ate at a small table near the windows, the lake beyond reflecting clouds. "This is incredible," I said after the first bite. "My father's recipe. You still make it." "Sometimes, when I need to remember who I was before all this." He twirled pasta on his fork but didn't eat. "Before I became someone who kills people in art galleries." I set down my fork. "You don't have to do that." "Do what?" "Punish yourself in front of me." "I know what you are, Lorenzo. You don't need to keep reminding me." His eyes snapped to mine. "And what am I, Emma?" "Dangerous. Capable of terrible things. Also," I hesitated, "also someone who makes perfect carbonara and keeps his father's memory alive through cooking. Someone who owns a secret cabin where he tries to figure out if he can live with his choices. That doesn't make me good." I didn't say it did, but it makes you human. Silence stretched between us. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall on the lake. "You're not what I expected," Lorenzo said finally. "What did you expect?" "Terror, tears, demands to go home." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Instead, you ask me about my father, and point out my humanity like it's a fact instead of a fantasy. Maybe I'm terrible at self-preservation. Or maybe you see something I stopped seeing a long time ago." The rain picked up, drumming against the windows. I felt the walls of this cabin, this moment, closing in, not threatening, but intimate. Two people forced into proximity by violence, discovering something neither had been looking for. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "You keep asking permission. Just ask. Why didn't you let your sister handle me?" Lorenzo's expression darkened. "Because Christina solves problems permanently, and you're not a problem to be solved." "Then what am I?" He stood, moved to the windows, hands in his pockets. "I don't know yet." I joined him at the glass, watching the rain blur the lake into abstraction. "Your sister said you were compromised. She's not wrong, and that word she used, inamorato." His shoulders tensed. "I know what it means, Lorenzo." "Then you know she's wrong about that too." But he didn't sound convinced. I turned to face him. "I wore that dress for no one. But when you looked at me in the gallery, when you told me to go instead of..." I couldn't finish. Something shifted, and I don't understand it. Neither do I. He finally looked at me, and the raw honesty in his face made my chest tight. "I've killed 23 people, Emma. Some deserved it, some were just in the way. I stopped counting the ones who fell because of orders I gave. But you..." He reached out, fingers grazing my temple. "You stand in front of me without flinching and ask me about cooking like I'm not a monster." "You are a monster," I whispered. "But maybe you're other things too." His hand cupped my jaw, thumb stroking my cheekbone. "This is dangerous." "I know. I can't promise you safety. Not from my world, not from me." "I know that too." "Then why are you still here?" "Because you're the only person who's ever looked at me and seen something worth protecting." The confession broke something in both of us. Lorenzo's forehead came to rest against mine. breath warm on my lips. I'm going to ruin you. Maybe I want to be ruined. Emma, just... I closed my eyes, felt the weight of his hand on my face, the heat of him so close. Just let this moment be what it is. We stood like that while rain fell, and the world outside disappeared, and something impossible grew between us. Dangerous, consuming, inevitable. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were dark with conflict and want. Go to bed, he said roughly. Before I make a choice we'll both regret, I went. But lying in the bedroom, listening to him move around the cabin, I knew the choice had already been made. We were both already falling, and neither of us knew how to stop. I woke to darkness and the sound of breaking glass. Adrenaline shot through me. I sat up, heart hammering, trying to orient myself. The cabin. Lorenzo's safe house. Rain still falling. Another crash. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand dead. I'd forgotten to charge it and crept to the bedroom door. Opened it a crack. The living room was illuminated only by the fireplace's dying embers. Lorenzo sat on the floor near the windows, surrounded by shattered glass. A bottle lay on its side near his hand. Not broken glass. A dropped glass. Lorenzo? His head turned, movement slow. You should be sleeping. I stepped into the room. What happened? Nothing. Go back to bed. But his voice was off rougher, less controlled. I moved closer, saw the bottle more clearly. Whiskey. Expensive. Half empty. Are you drunk? Working on it. I'd never seen him anything less than absolutely controlled. This vulnerability felt like stumbling into something private, sacred. Want to tell me why? I asked softly. Because I got a message. He gestured vaguely toward his phone on the couch. Russo. Imports. They know you're with me. They're calling it kidnapping. My stomach dropped. What? They're telling Marcus, the other families, anyone who'll listen that I've taken an innocent civilian against her will. He laughed, bitter and sharp. They're painting me as unhinged, dangerous, breaking our codes. But that's not... It doesn't matter what's true. It matters what people believe. He reached for the bottle, took a drink straight from it. They're using you exactly how I thought, starting a war. And I walked right into it by bringing you here. I sank to the floor beside him, careful of the broken glass. So what do? Smart move? Turn you over. Let you go public. Say I held you briefly. Apologize. Make it a misunderstanding. Fear spiked. And the not smart move? Keep you here. Protect you. Watch everything I've built burn down around me. The choice laid bare between us, his empire or my life. You should choose your empire, I said quietly. I know. So why haven't you? He turned to look at me, eyes unfocused from the alcohol but still intense. Because for the first time in 15 years, I don't want to make the smart choice. The admission hung in the air. My father died protecting something that mattered to him, Lorenzo continued. His restaurant, his legacy, his pride. I used to think that was noble. He took another drink. But sitting here now, I realize he just loved something more than he feared dying. And I never understood that until... He stopped himself. Until what? I whispered. Until a woman in a backless dress looked at me like I was human. Oh God. I reached for the bottle, took it from his hand. You've had enough. Probably. But he didn't resist. I set the whiskey aside, started carefully picking up the larger pieces of broken glass. Lorenzo watched me, expression unreadable. You don't have to clean up my messes, he said. Someone should. Emma, you protected me. I placed the glass shards on the coffee table. Even when it didn't make sense. Even when it cost you. Let me do this one small thing. He was quiet while I finished. When I sat back down beside him, closer this time, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. You're going to get yourself killed being kind to dangerous men. Just one dangerous man. His hand lingered on my face. This is where I should tell you to run. To get away from me before I destroy everything good about you. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. It does to me. The words came out more intense than I'd intended. Lorenzo's eyes darkened, his thumb tracing my jawline with heartbreaking gentleness. I can't offer you anything, Emma. No future, no safety, no promises. Just this moment, and whatever moments I can steal before everything falls apart. Then give me this moment. Something broke in him. He kissed me. Not gentle, desperate, consuming. Like he was trying to memorize the taste of me. His hand fisted in my hair, the other pulling me closer until I was half in his lap. I kissed him back with equal desperation, hands finding the solid warmth of his chest, feeling his heart hammer beneath my palms. He tasted like whiskey and poor decisions and something headier I couldn't name. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. "This is a mistake," he breathed. "I know. I'm going to hurt you. Probably. Emma." I kissed him again, softer this time. "I know all of it, Lorenzo. I know what you are, what you've done, what you're capable of. I know this is temporary and dangerous and probably going to break me." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes, but I also know that for the first time in my life, someone looks at me and sees something worth protecting, worth ruining themselves for, and I can't walk away from that. "You should." "I know." He made a sound between a laugh and a groan, pulling me fully into his lap. "You're going to be the death of me." "Good. At least you'll die feeling something. I already feel too much." His arms wrapped around me, holding me like I was precious and breakable. That's the problem. We sat like that, while the fire died and rain continued its assault on the windows. I could feel his heartbeat against my back, steady despite the alcohol, despite the impossible situation. "Tell me something true," I whispered. "What do you want to know? Anything. Something real." Lorenzo was quiet for a long time. Then, "I haven't brought anyone here. Ever. This cabin, it's the one place that's just mine, untouched by family or business or blood." His voice softened, "And I brought you here." The significance wasn't lost on me. Why? Because when I look at you, I remember what it feels like to want something for myself. Not for power or revenge or obligation, just because I want it. My throat tightened. "Lorenzo, you asked for something true." His arms tightened around me. "That's the truest thing I have." I turned in his lap, straddling him, hands framing his face. "Then here's something true from me. I don't care about your empire. I don't care about the families or the wars or the smart choices. I care about this." I kissed him softly. "This moment where you're not a mafia boss or an enforcer, where you're just a man who makes perfect carbonara and holds me like I matter. You do matter. Then stop trying to push me away. I'm trying to save you. Maybe I don't want to be saved. Maybe I want to fall." His control finally shattered. He kissed me like he was drowning, and I was air desperate, consuming, holding nothing back, and I kissed him back with equal fervor, knowing this was reckless, knowing it would end badly, knowing I didn't care. Because for once in my careful, overlooked life, I was choosing something dangerous, and it felt like flying. Morning light woke me. I was in the bedroom Lorenzo must have carried me after I fell asleep in his arms. The cabin was silent except for the sound of the lake lapping at the shore. Rain had stopped sometime during the night. I found him on the deck, coffee in hand, staring at the water. "You left," I said, stepping outside. "You needed sleep. That's not why you left." He glanced at me, and I saw the walls rebuilding in his eyes. The vulnerability from last night, the drinking, the confession, the kisses, he was trying to take it all back without words. "Lorenzo, I got a call an hour ago." His voice was back to business cold. "Christina's given me 48 hours to resolve this situation or she takes it to the council." "The council?" "The heads of the 5 families. They settle disputes, maintain order." He set down his coffee. "If this goes to them, they'll rule against me. Protecting you breaks too many codes. I'll lose territory, alliances, possibly my position entirely. Then let me go. I'll tell everyone. They'll kill you the moment you surface." His eyes met mine, hard and certain. "Russo wants a war. Marcus wants revenge. You're the spark they don't care if you burn as long as the fire spreads." Helplessness crashed over me. "So what? I just hide forever?" "No. You hide for 48 hours while I eliminate the threat." The casual way he said eliminate made my skin crawl. "You're going to kill them." "It's what I do, Emma." He turned fully to face me. "Russo, Marcus, anyone orchestrating this, they die. Then you're free. And us?" The question hung between us. "There is no us." The words were brutal, final. "Last night was a mistake. The alcohol, the stress, I shouldn't have touched you." Pain lanced through my chest. "You don't mean that." "I mean every word." But something flickered in his eyes. "You need to understand what you are to me. A liability. A complication. Something that needs to be resolved, so I can get back to my life. Stop lying. I'm not." "Yes, you are." I stepped closer, refusing to let him retreat. "You're scared. Last night you let me in, showed me something real, and now you're terrified. So you're pushing me away with cruelty instead of honesty. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me you felt nothing when you kissed me. Tell me bringing me to your secret cabin meant nothing. Tell me—" His phone rang. Lorenzo grabbed it, answered with a sharp, "What?" I watched his expression change shock, then rage so pure it made the air dangerous. "When?" A pause. "How many?" Another pause. Longer. "I'm on my way." He ended the call, already moving toward the cabin. "What happened?" I followed him inside. Marcus hit one of my warehouses, killed 3 of my people, took another 2. He was grabbing keys, checking his gun. "This is retaliation. For his accountant, for protecting you, he's declaring war. Lorenzo, stay here. The alarms are active, doors are locked. Don't leave this cabin for any reason. You can't just go. This is my world, Emma." He rounded on me, fury and anguish warring in his face. "This is what I do. I don't get to opt out because I kissed you, or because you make me feel human for 5 fucking minutes. People are dead, my people, and I have to respond." The rawness in his voice stopped my protest. "How long will you be gone?" I asked quietly. "As long as it takes." He headed for the door, then paused, turned back, crossed to me in 3 strides and kissed me hard, desperate, like a goodbye. When he pulled away, his eyes were dark with conflict. "If I don't come back." "Don't say that." "If I don't come back," he continued, "there's a folder in the safe. Combination is your birthday, I looked it up. Inside are documents, money, a new identity, enough to disappear and start over." Tears burned my eyes. "Lorenzo, promise me you'll use it." "I promise." He kissed my forehead, gentle and achingly sad. Then he was gone. The cabin felt enormous and empty without him. I lasted 3 hours before I broke. Not the promise I wouldn't leave, but I couldn't just sit there, waiting, wondering if every minute that passed was the one where Lorenzo died because he'd been distracted protecting me. The safe was in the bedroom closet, hidden behind a false panel. I entered my birthday, November 17, and it opened with a soft click. Inside, cash. Multiple passports with my photo, but different names. A folder, thick with documents. I pulled out the folder, started reading. Russo imports, financial records, shell companies, money trails leading to— My blood ran cold. My company, the boutique skincare firm I worked for, the one Vivian managed, it was listed. Payments received, services rendered, dates going back 6 months. We were laundering money for the Costello family, and I'd had no idea. My hands shook as I kept reading. There, Vivian Chen, named specifically. My boss wasn't just involved. She was a key player, the gallery tickets, the invitation. She'd put me there deliberately. But why? I dug deeper, found communication logs, emails between Vivian and someone named R.C. Russo Costello. Then I found it. An email dated 3 days before the gallery opening. "Mark will be at the Zenith Gallery, 8 p.m. Lorenzo handles these personally. Place your girl near the sculpture wing. Make sure she's memorable. When Lorenzo sees her during the execution, the association begins. Phase 2 activates when we leak witness protection interest. My girl. They dressed me up, sent me there, wanted Lorenzo to notice me during the murder. This wasn't random. This was calculated, specific. They'd used my obscurity, my desperation to fit in, my savings spent on a dress to make myself feel important for once, used all of it to set a trap. And Lorenzo had walked right into it by protecting me. Rage and horror warred in my chest. I grabbed my phone, still dead, found a charger in the kitchen. As soon as it powered up, I called Vivienne. "Emma, finally. Where are you? I've been so worried." "You lying bitch." Silence. "I know about Russo. I know about the money laundering. I know you put me at that gallery deliberately." My voice shook with fury. "You set me up. Emma, calm down. You don't understand. Then explain it. Explain why you made me a target." "Because they paid me." Her voice turned cold, the mask dropping. $50,000 to get someone unremarkable to that gallery. Someone Lorenzo might notice and instinctively protect instead of eliminate. You were perfect, invisible, grateful for any attention, and completely clueless. The words hit like physical blows. "They're going to kill me," I whispered. "Probably. But I'll be in the Bahamas by then, so." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Nothing personal, Emma. Just business." The line went dead. I stood in Lorenzo's kitchen, world shattered, understanding finally complete. I wasn't collateral damage. I was the weapon. And Lorenzo, the man who'd shown me his secret cabin, cooked his father's recipe, kissed me like I mattered, had been the target all along. The cabin's alarm shrieked. Someone was here. I killed the lights and grabbed the first weapon I could find, a chef's knife from the butcher block. The alarm showed a breach at the western perimeter. One vehicle. Multiple heat signatures approaching. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Hello? Emma Harper. A man's voice, smooth and cold. I'm Rafael Costello. I believe you're in possession of something that belongs to me. I don't know what you're talking about. Lorenzo's protection, his attention, his affection. The word dripped with mockery. You've served your purpose beautifully. Now it's time to come with us, so we can finish what we started. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then we'll drag you out. Either way, when Lorenzo returns and finds you gone, finds evidence, we took you from his secret sanctuary, he'll come for us with everything he has. Emotional, reckless, vulnerable. Rafael laughed. And we'll end the great Lorenzo Salvatore's reign with a bullet between his eyes. The call ended. Footsteps on the deck. 3 no. 4 sets. I backed toward the bedroom, mind racing. Lorenzo said the cabin was secure, but they'd found it, which meant a window shattered. I ran into the bedroom, slamming the door. The safe, I grabbed the gun I'd seen inside, checked the magazine like my father had taught me years ago before he died. Loaded. Safety off. The bedroom door exploded inward. 2 men in tactical gear. I fired. The recoil shocked me, but muscle memory held. 1 shot, center mass. The first man went down. The second dove aside, returned fire. Wood splintered above my head. I dropped, rolled, came up firing again. Missed. He was on me before I could adjust, knocked the gun away, hand around my throat. Big, professional, eyes cold. Mr. Costello wants you alive, he growled, but he didn't say unharmed. I drove my knee into his groin. He grunted, grip loosening. I grabbed the chef's knife I dropped, drove it into his thigh. He screamed, released me. I scrambled away, grabbed the gun, and ran for the back door. More men outside. I was surrounded. Fuck. I retreated to the bathroom-only room with a lock that might hold. Barricaded the door with my body, gun trained on the wood. Emma! Raphael's voice, closer now. This is pointless. You can't fight all of us. Watch me. He laughed. I respect the spirit. Lorenzo chose well. I'll give him that. But this ends one way. Come out, and we'll make it quick. Go to hell. After you. The door shuddered. They were breaking it down. I aimed, waiting, finger on the trigger. This was it. I'd killed 1 man already, something I'd never imagined doing. Could probably take 1 more before they overwhelmed me. At least I'd make them work for it. The door splintered. Gunfire erupted. But not from inside the cabin. Outside. Automatic weapons, rapid fire, shouting in Italian. The assault on the bathroom door stopped. More gunfire. Screams. Someone yelling orders. Then silence. I waited. Gun trained on the destroyed door, breathing hard. Emma! Lorenzo's voice, rough and urgent. It's me. Don't shoot. How do I know it's really you? You promised to use the documents in the safe if I didn't come back. Your birthday is the combination. And last night I kissed you like I was drowning. I lowered the gun, sagged against the wall. The bathroom door opened carefully. Lorenzo stood there, covered in blood, not his. I hoped, gun in hand, eyes wild until they found me. You're alive, he breathed. So are you. He crossed to me in 2 strides, pulled me against him with crushing force. I felt him shaking. I heard the alarm. Drove back going 120. His voice cracked. Saw Costello's men. Thought I was too late. Thought, I'm okay. I pulled back enough to see his face. I killed one of them. Something dark and proud flickered in his eyes. I saw. Perfect shot. My dad taught me, before he died. Remind me to thank him. He cupped my face, thumb stroking my cheekbones. You should have been terrified. Should have hidden. I was terrified. But I'm also really fucking angry. I told him everything, the folder, the emails, Vivienne's confession, Raphael's call. Watched his expression darken with each revelation. They used you, he said when I finished. They used both of us. I was the bait. You were the target. And you still protected yourself. Still fought. He kissed my forehead, gentle despite the violence surrounding us. You're not a victim, Emma. You're a survivor. What happens now? His eyes went cold. Now I end this. We left the cabin an hour later. Lorenzo's people had arrived, cleaned up the bodies, secured the perimeter. I tried not to look at the man I'd killed, but Lorenzo made me. Don't turn away, he said quietly. You took a life to save your own. That's not something to hide from. So I looked, saw the man's face, slack in death, felt the weight of it. Does it get easier? I asked. No. It just gets necessary. In the car, Lorenzo made calls. Clipped, angry Italian that needed no translation. He was calling in every favor, mobilizing every resource. Christina, he said into the phone. I know what I said. I know the timeline. But they came for her at the cabin, my cabin, Christina, the one even you don't know about. A pause. Which means we have a leak, and I'm done playing defensive. Another pause, longer. I'm going to Costello's estate, tonight, and I'm burning it to the ground. He listened to her response, jaw tight. Then bring it to the council. Let them watch me break every rule we have, because Emma Harper is mine to protect, and anyone who touches her dies. He ended the call without waiting for a response. Lorenzo, don't. He glanced at me, eyes blazing. Don't try to talk me down. Don't tell me it's not worth it. 3 of my people are dead. You almost died. They violated the one place I had left that was just mine. His hand found my thigh, gripped tight. I'm ending this. All of it. And I don't care what it costs, even your position, especially my position. He turned back to the road. I built an empire on fear and control. But what's the point of ruling if I have to sacrifice the only thing I've ever wanted for myself? My heart stopped. What do you want? You. Simple, devastating, true. I want you alive. I want you safe. I want to wake up and make you coffee exactly how you like it. I want to teach you to make my father's carbonara. His voice roughened. I want something good in my life, Emma. And you're the first good thing I've had in 15 years. Tears blurred my vision. So I'm going to kill Rafael Costello, Lorenzo continued. And Marcus Valenti. And anyone else who thinks they can use you as a weapon against me. And then if you still want it, I'm going to disappear with you. Leave this life. Start over. You'd give up everything? I already have. He brought my hand to his lips, kissed my knuckles. The moment I told you to go instead of killing you in that gallery, I chose you over everything else. I just didn't realize it yet. Lorenzo. I love you, Emma Harper. The confession came out rough, almost angry. I love you, and it's going to get me killed, and I don't care. I love you too. He pulled the car over so fast the tires squealed, kissed me desperately, hands in my hair, breathing hard. Say it again. He demanded against my lips. I love you. Again. I love you, Lorenzo Salvatore. Even though you're a killer and a criminal and this is completely insane. He laughed, actually laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Completely insane, he agreed. But it's ours. The Costello estate was a fortress. High walls, armed guards, surveillance everywhere. We parked a quarter-mile away in a warehouse owned by one of Lorenzo's allies. Last chance to stay behind, Lorenzo said, checking his weapons. Not happening. Emma, they used me, tried to kill me. I'm not sitting this out. I picked up the gun he'd given me, smaller than the one at the cabin, easier to handle. Besides, you need someone watching your back. He studied me for a long moment, then pulled me close and kissed me hard. Stay behind me. Don't engage unless you have to. And if anything happens, nothing's going to happen. If anything happens, he continued firmly, you run. You use the new identity, the money, everything in that folder. You disappear, and you don't look back. Lorenzo, promise me. Only if you promise the same. If this goes wrong, you get out. You don't die for revenge. His jaw tensed. I can't promise that. Then I can't either. We stared at each other. 2 stubborn, reckless people in love, refusing to imagine a future without the other. We're both insane, Lorenzo muttered. Completely. He kissed me again, softer this time. Ready? No. Let's go anyway. We went in through the service entrance. Lorenzo had bribed one of the kitchen staff, a woman whose brother he'd once protected from Marcus. She let us in, pointed toward the main house, and fled. The estate was massive. Marble floors, priceless art. The kind of wealth that came from generations of crime. We moved through the corridors silently. Lorenzo led, gun ready, every movement precise and controlled. I followed, heart hammering, trying not to think about what we were doing. Breaking into a Mafia boss's home to commit murder. This was my life now. We found Raphael in his study, exactly where Lorenzo's intel said he'd be. He looked up from his desk as we entered, gun already pointed at his chest. Lorenzo. Raphael smiled, unafraid. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Call off your men. This is between us. You really think I'd be alone? Raphael stood, and I saw the gun in his hand. You've gone soft, Salvatore. Love has made you predictable. Love has made me dangerous. Raphael's eyes flicked to me. And you brought her. How touching. He raised his gun. She dies first. I want you to watch. Everything happened at once. Lorenzo fired. Raphael dove. Return fire sparked off the doorframe beside my head. I dropped, rolled left, came up shooting like Lorenzo had taught me in the car. My shot went wide, but it made Raphael adjust his aim. Lorenzo used the opening. 2 shots. Center mass. Raphael fell. But before Lorenzo could confirm the kill, men poured into the study. 4. 5 too many. Run! Lorenzo shouted. I fired at the closest man, hit him in the shoulder. Lorenzo took down 2 more, but they kept coming. We retreated into the hallway, backs against each other, firing at anything that moved. I'd never been so terrified, so alive, so certain I was about to die. Then Lorenzo's gun clicked empty. Mine too. The remaining men advanced, weapons trained on us. End of the line, one said. Lorenzo shifted, putting himself between me and the guns. No, I whispered. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I'm sorry I got you into this. Sorry I couldn't protect you. Sorry we don't get more time. Don't you dare apologize for loving me. He turned, cupped my face. If we survive this, when we survive this, he amended. I'm taking you somewhere warm, somewhere with no families, no codes, no violence, just us. Promise? Promise. The men cocked their weapons, and Christina walked into the hallway. Lower your guns, she said, voice sharp with authority. The men hesitated. I said lower them. Now. They obeyed, confusion clear on their faces. Christina looked at Lorenzo, expression unreadable. The council met an hour ago, unanimously voted to eliminate the Costello family for violating protocols regarding civilian targets. She gestured to the men. These are our people now. Costello assets have been seized. Lorenzo stared at his sister. You sided with me. I sided with the family. You're the best leader we've had in 2 generations. I wasn't going to let some upstart territory grab destroy that. She looked at me, something almost like respect in her eyes. Besides, anyone who kills one of Costello's men and then breaks into their estate to finish the job has earned a certain consideration. Marcus Valenti? Lorenzo asked. Already handled. His people turned on him when they heard the council's ruling. He's dead. It was over. The threat, the violence, the war that had been building over. Lorenzo pulled me against him, buried his face in my hair. I felt him shaking. We're alive, I whispered. We're alive. Christina cleared her throat. The council also voted on your position. Lorenzo tensed. You keep your territory, your people. But, she paused, significant. You're required to step back from active enforcement. Take a consultative role. Train the next generation. Manage strategy, but no more direct involvement. And if I refuse, then you lose everything. Christina's expression softened slightly. They're giving you an out, Lorenzo. A way to keep the family intact while building something else. Don't be stupid enough to reject it. Lorenzo looked at me. I saw the question in his eyes. I nodded. I accept, he said. Christina smiled genuine, relieved. Good. Now get out of here. You have blood on your suit and your girlfriend looks like she's about to collapse. She's not my girlfriend. Then what is she? Lorenzo pulled me closer. Everything. We left Boston 3 days later. The paperwork was filed, the transition managed, the council appeased. Lorenzo transferred most of his assets into legitimate businesses, set up trusts, made arrangements, and booked us tickets to Malta. Why Malta? I asked as we packed. Warm, Mediterranean, far from Boston. And my grandmother was Maltese. I have a house there I inherited but never visited. He folded a shirt precisely. Seemed like the right place to start over. What will we do there? Whatever we want. He crossed to me, pulled me into his arms. I was thinking I might open a restaurant, Real Italian food, none of the tourist garbage. You could. He paused. What do you want to do? I thought about it, really thought about who I was outside of being overlooked, outside of surviving. Write, I said finally. I've always wanted to write. Then write. He kissed my forehead. Write about anything you want. I'll read every word. Even the Mafia romance novels. He laughed. Especially those. Though I expect to be portrayed very accurately. Tall, dark, dangerous, and secretly soft. That's slander. I'm not soft. You make me coffee exactly how I like it. That's just practical. You cried when we left the cabin. Dust in my eyes. I kissed him, smiling against his lips. Keep telling yourself that. We finished packing in comfortable silence, and I realized this was it, the life I'd been searching for without knowing. Not perfect, not safe, but real. And mine, Malta, was perfect. The house sat on a cliff, overlooking the Mediterranean. All white stone and blue shutters and bougainvillea climbing the walls. We spent our first week doing nothing, sleeping late, swimming in the sea, learning how to exist without looking over our shoulders. Lorenzo transformed. Without the weight of his position, the constant violence, he softened in ways I hadn't imagined possible. He smiled more, laughed, spent hours in the kitchen experimenting with recipes while I wrote on the terrace. 3 months in, he opened his restaurant. Small, intimate, only 12 tables. He called it Salvatore's, honoring his father while building something new. I helped design the menu, manage reservations, and occasionally served when we were understaffed. It was shockingly normal, and I'd never been happier. 6 months after leaving Boston, Christina visited. The family's stable, she reported over dinner at the restaurant. Your transition plan worked perfectly. The new generation respects the old codes while adapting to changing times. And no one's tried to kill each other? Lorenzo asked. Only twice. Both resolved without casualties. She sipped her wine. You did good work, brother. Built something that can last. I built something that can function without me, he corrected. That was always the goal. Christina looked at me. And you? How's the writing? Good. I finished my first novel last month. Mafia romance? Of course. She laughed. Does Lorenzo approve? He has notes. Many notes. Mostly about proper gun handling and realistic organized crime structures. I'm a consultant, Lorenzo said, not quite hiding his smile. We ate and talked, and for a moment, it felt like family, real family. Not the criminal empire kind, just people who cared about each other, sharing a meal. Before Christina left, she pulled me aside. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For giving my brother something to live for besides revenge and duty. For showing him there's more to life than the family. She squeezed my hand. He's happy. I've never seen him happy before. He saved me first. You saved each other. That's rarer than you think. After she left, Lorenzo and I walked along the cliffs, hand in hand, watching the sun set over the water. Do you miss it? I asked. The power, the control, the respect. He was quiet for a moment. Sometimes I miss the clarity, the simple math of threat and elimination. But then I wake up next to you, make coffee, spend my day cooking food that makes people smile instead of fear me. He pulled me closer. This is better, even though it's quiet, especially because it's quiet. He stopped walking, turned to face me. Emma, I spent 15 years building an empire on violence. I was good at it, but I was also dying slowly, piece by piece, losing the parts of myself that remembered what it felt like to be human. And now I remember. He cupped my face, thumbs stroking my cheeks in that gesture I'd come to crave. You wearing that backless dress, standing in that gallery, it wasn't fate or coincidence. It was the universe, giving me one last chance to choose something besides vengeance. Tears pricked my eyes. And you chose me. I chose us. He kissed me, soft and sweet and perfect. Best decision I ever made. 1 year after Malta, Lorenzo proposed. Not with fanfare or grand gestures, just the two of us on our terrace at sunrise, coffee in hand. Marry me, he said. I set down my cup carefully. Was that a question or a demand? Does it matter? Lorenzo, I want to spend every morning of my life making you coffee. I want to argue about whether garlic should be minced or pressed. I want to read your terrible first drafts and give you completely unhelpful notes. He set down his own cup, took my hands. I want legal proof that you're mine and I'm yours, and anyone who thinks otherwise can fuck off. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is that a no? It's a yes, you ridiculous man. I kissed him, laughing and crying simultaneously. Yes, I'll marry you. We married a month later, small ceremony. Just Christina and a few local friends. I wore white silk. Lorenzo wore a dark suit that made him look dangerously handsome. When he slid the ring on my finger, he whispered, "You're stuck with me now." "Good," I whispered back. "I choose dangerous." 2 years in Malta, and my novel sold. Not millions of copies, not some best-selling phenomenon, but it sold enough that my publisher wanted another, and another. I wrote about violence and love, about dangerous men and brave women, about choosing passion over safety, and I wrote it all on our terrace, with the Mediterranean breeze and Lorenzo's cooking smells and the life we'd built from ashes. "You made me the hero," Lorenzo said, reading the dedication in my 3rd book. "You are the hero. I'm a reformed criminal who killed 23 people. 23 terrible people, and you stopped." I curled into his side on the couch. "Heroes aren't perfect, Lorenzo. They're just people who make the right choice when it matters most." "And what choice was that?" "You chose me over your empire. You chose love over fear. You chose to build instead of destroy." I kissed his jaw. "That's heroic. I chose you because I'm selfish, because I wanted you more than power. Still counts." He pulled me into his lap, arms wrapped tight around me. "Do you ever regret it? Walking away from your old life?" "My old life was being overlooked and undervalued. This life." I gestured to our home, the restaurant visible through the window, the books on the shelf with my name on them. "This life is everything I didn't know I needed. Even the part where you witnessed a murder and got death threats, especially that part. It brought me you. You're insane. We established that early on." I kissed him, deep and slow. "But I'm your kind of insane." "Yes, you are." We sat like that while the sun set and the Mediterranean turned gold. 2 people who'd found each other in violence and chosen to build something peaceful. Not perfect, Lorenzo still had nightmares sometimes, and I still flinched at loud noises. We carried our scars, our past, our choices, but we carried them together. 5 years after the gallery opening, I stood in our restaurant's kitchen, watching Lorenzo teach a cooking class. 12 students, all eager to learn proper Italian technique. He demonstrated his father's carbonara recipe, the one he'd made me that first night in the cabin. "The key is patience," he told them. "You can't rush it. You work with what you have, and make something worth consuming." His eyes found mine across the kitchen, and he smiled. I smiled back, remembering a woman in a backless dress and a man who'd looked at her and seen possibility instead of a problem. We'd both been weapons, once him forged in violence, me sharpened by being overlooked. But we'd learned to be something else. We'd learned to be human, together, and that dangerous, imperfect, and absolutely real was enough.